We are live.
Good afternoon. Randy Groves. I'm the chair of our Intergovernmental Relations Committee, and I'm calling this meeting to order for October 1st, 2025, a little after 1:30 p.m. Second agenda item is review and minutes and approve. Jennifer, do you have a?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I also
Second.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Greg.
Yeah, I'm here. Second.
Okay. And Ethan has something to say. So
just on the agenda review, if you want to do the minutes, and then we can talk about
yes. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We'll go back to agenda review. Ethan.
Councilor Groves, members of the committee, today there's a couple items that I'd like to add on. One of those items is that as we're in the draft priorities, and I sent this out to Will Dowdy, Community Development Director, is going to stop by around 2 o'clock. And so we'll adjust the schedule so that he can dive into the item that's a developing item that we wanted to talk with you directly about. And there's materials in front of you, and also I sent to you in email form. And then I'd also switch number 4 to become number 5 and add a new one, which is review letter of support for a Whitebird Clinic federal grant. If that's all right, then we can just make those amendments.
Does anyone have any objections to that?
No objections.
Nope.
Objections.
Nope.
Go ahead and amend the agenda. Sorry, give me a second here.
Second.
Do we need to vote?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to multitask. The Guardians just won, so I don't know if you're watching or not. No, you're there.
Oh. I'm here. I'm not watching.
Yeah.
And I want to just disclose that I have not had time to read the changes. I had some personal commitments for most of the day, and anyway, so I'll look forward to the discussion about that. So with that done, let's move on to agenda item 3 and discuss the 2026 preparation and schedule. Starting with A, which is 2026 draft priorities and discussion. Ethan.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Okay, so as you may recall, every year the IGR committee reviews proposed changes, proposed priorities, 2 major documents. There's a priorities document and there's a policies document. And so the first item that we're going to walk through is the proposed priorities document. And this is based upon discussions that we've picked up from listening to city council meetings, working with our local delegation, talking with executives and staff across the organization to really identify what, if we're going to put forward in front of IGR for consideration, what would be the priorities that we would at least start off with. And these by no means are the end. There's always the opportunity for IGR and or council to add to this list or and obviously revise it. But our, the city managers and through to me is that the interest is to put something in front of you as a starting point. So that's where we are today. I'll direct your attention to the document that was sent on out and that's in front of you is the 2026 Eugene State Legislative Priorities Draft. So that's what I'll walk through right now. The first one, and they're just numerically lined on out, but they don't necessarily need to be in this order. If you want to be able to reorder them, by all means. But the first item is we're looking to protect the full funding from the Oregon Housing Community Services statewide shelter program. And so as you may recall, at the end of 2025, House Bill 3644 passed and it had $204 million allocated to OHCS, and that was for a statewide shelter program. As you've also may have heard, the state is facing some budget shortfalls within this biennium, and there has been discussion of programs to reduce allocations for, to rebalance the budget. And the top items that have been identified within that potential reduction, are new programs, and hence 3644 in the statewide shelter program is a new program. So we just want to have that on our radar and be able to advocate that that within this current biennium, the full allocation from the legislature of 204 million stays within OHCS and continues to be dedicated towards the statewide shelter. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay.
Continuing on, similarly, we received $6 million out of the lottery bond bill, House Bill 5031, for quote unquote, for distribution to the city of Eugene to construct a wastewater collection system to prepare for industrial land for development. And this is the Clear Lake Road project. There has been new forecasts for lottery. So the lottery bonds would be sold in 2027, and the amount that has been identified or was identified during the 2025 session is predicated upon the forecast of lottery bond revenue into the future, right? And as state economic forecasters look into their quote unquote crystal ball to identify what the revenues are, that projections are out into the future, they've started to address some of the potential reductions in lottery revenues. And so if, and this is an if, it's a defensive position, if there is a reduction in lottery bond revenues that would then impact the amount of lottery bonds that the state would sell in 2027, and it would have an impact on the projects that were then allocated funding, we want to have a strong position that says we want full funding. And so that one just is another defensive position to maintain the revenue that the legislature has previously appropriated and allocated towards Eugene.
Okay. Questions from the IGR committee?
Councilor Groves, looking at the document that Ethan submitted, I think that reordering our priorities, I would like to see us reorder our priorities and move our protection of the Clear Lake Road infrastructure money to be a top priority. Just next to that would be the state and federal support for the airport expansion. Because I'm exceedingly worried about, you know, whether or not we are going to lose funding for that, and I think that's really critical for economic development and other pieces that we're trying to do.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Councilor Ye?
Yeah, was my understanding that these are not in order of priority. Is that correct or incorrect?
That's what Ethan said.
Yeah, because so it would be my preference for it to stay not in priority order, only because I doubt that the three of us all have the same list of priorities in order. And I would hate for it to just be a fighting match about what is 1, 2, and 3, 4, you know, just the understanding that these are all priorities for our community. I don't know, that would just be my preference. I'm just going to put that out there.
Thank you, Councilor. Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. This is just a comment related to the statewide shelter program and the protection of that $6 million in funding. And my thoughts for this group and recommendations to the group, that given the role of the city of Eugene over a number of years, and with my predecessor's work of advocating as a part of that work group, and also our city's work as both innovative local jurisdiction and highly effective local jurisdiction as it relates to this area of work, and also working in close partnership with our county, Lane County, I would just, as is possible, encourage us to be working as a united front with Lane County in pursuit of this $6 million in funding. As we know that the pressures that our budget are under are real. And also we know that as Eugene succeeds in providing shelter capacity, statistically Lane County succeeds, and that also our collective efforts are really well connected in this way. So just a point of encouragement in our advocacy work within the building, and to have a truly united front in this effort.
Thank you, Mayor. And my comment was going to be, maybe we should hear discussions about each item and then talk about prioritization. But I don't know that 6 items, Ethan, maybe you can answer this, are 6 items so vast that we need to prioritize? I do agree with Councilor Evans that I think things that help move our economy forward, that's part of the way we're going to raise revenue to get us out of the hole we're in. And I mean, it's not the total answer. It takes a lot of development to really, mean real dollars. But at the same time, I just feel like our economic development or economic growth has not kept pace with our population growth. That's part of, besides just Oregon taxation, but just here locally, even with our AV, that's part of our issue. It costs roughly more, is my understanding, to serve 1 square mile of, or even 1 square acre of detached single occupancy housing than it does. It doesn't produce enough money to even cover the services they receive. So that speaks to the point of trying to make sure we're bolstering these other areas, and the airport's an important piece of that. But at the same time, I'm not sure how we get past what the federal government's requiring in the way of agreements to support the effort on immigration. And so I'd like to see that move forward, but at the same time, I would like more of a realistic assessment on that. So that's just a number of thoughts I'm having on this. I don't know if you have comments on what you've heard from our committee. And I also see the mayor has her hand up again, but maybe you could comment on that first.
Mayor.
I will absolutely wait until after. Thank you, Chair.
He's deferring to you, Mayor.
Well, thank you to staff. With the one clarification that was offered about these being a collection of priorities, but not necessarily a hierarchical list of priorities, it does seem like there could be other ways also just to present this information that demonstrates that raft in a referenceable way without it being listed as a number 1, a number 3, or a number 5. So that's just my general thought, if we're moving through this and have agreement on these as the priorities.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm sure that we probably have 8 different ideas of exactly how that should look. But Ethan, do you have some comments based on what you've heard?
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, everyone, for providing your input on that. I think that one way that we could approach this is just to remove the numbers and add bullets, and so that then it becomes a list of the priorities. I would say that functionally how this works is that if it's on this list, then I'm putting a lot of time and energy and effort to go and talk to legislators. And when it's on the list, I can say, this is a Eugene priority. And sometimes there is a clear direction from IGR and from council to say, yeah, these are all priorities, except this one is the priority. And so if there's, and that then also helps with my advocacy, because at times, and I'm assuming you can appreciate this, that at times a legislator or our delegation says, we know you have 5, you get to pick 1. What's it going to be? And so that then helps with getting direction from IGR and full council that says, out of all of these things, push comes to shove, and it usually comes down to direct funds to the city. that's when we have to say, what is it? Is it A or is it B? And that's where I think the prioritization then comes down.
Thank you. Why don't we go ahead and finish out talking about the rest of the items, and then we can come back. Would that be okay with, I'm not looking for a vote, just a thumbs up or thumbs down, just to get through this list, and then we can talk about where to go with it. I kind of like the idea of moving the numbers, putting bullets, and we can always come back later if there's a hot issue, or you have an opportunity on any of these that presents itself to move forward. I think we need to give you some room to dance.
Okay, so back onto the list, number 3 is support increased protections related to threats to public officials. And so as you may remember, this was a priority from last year, and we had a bill, Senate Bill 473, that Senator Brzezinski led with, moved out of the full Senate unanimous support. It moved to the House, where then it did not move forward, or it did move forward after a fairly large revision in the House Judiciary, and then it quote unquote died within House rules. So it didn't move forward. In gathering information related to why there was a heavy revision on House Judiciary and then why it didn't move forward, some opposition by some of the House members came to light. And so I had follow-up conversations during the legislative session, and then I've been having follow-up conversations this week and previously with some of the opponents and also proponents of the bill. Senator Brzezinski had shared that yes, he would be supportive of putting a bill forward if he has one. As you may recall, during the short session, legislators are only able to put 2 bills forward. I think on the Senate side, they can put 3 bills. And then there's committees are limited to, I think, 4 bills for the committee. So it's really very tight. And it's not only that the bills, they have a certain number of bills that they get put forward, but they also have legislative council will only write the legislative concept for 2 bills, 2 concepts. And so legislators they hold those very close to the chest to say, okay, what am I going to move forward? So in my discussions yesterday and on Monday during the legislative days up in Salem, there's more interest from legislators to move this forward, and especially on the House side. And so what I've been doing is pulling together somewhat of a coalition of legislators to be able to provide support. We just need to now, if possible, find a vehicle, basically a bill, an available bill. And so that one is, it could come where we actually have a bill and we can move it forward this year. So we're working on that.
So even in the short session, you think we can get this moved forward?
That's what we're working on right now. It has been an existing council priority.
Yep.
And so the proposal is to push it forward for the next round.
Comments from the committee? Not seeing
No
any?
questions.
No. I'm good. Great. Let's move on to the next one.
Number 4, support state and federal financial support for Eugene Airport expansion. This is a large capital project. It's going to take multiple years for us to gather money. And so there's the recommendation to be able to put this on. As you may recall, Clear Lake took 3 years to get funding for. Crow Road took 2 years. And it was only, a major statewide focus to bring additional capital dollars to communities for housing that really galvanized our efforts there. And so the rationale behind this is that this is a large ongoing capital project that let's put it onto the priorities now, and so that we can start talking about it on an ongoing basis with state and federal leaders, so they get really clear that this is something that Eugene wants and needs, and the region wants and needs.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? I have one. Going back to a comment I made earlier, is there any work being done to take away the requirement that would violate state ordinance or state law and local ordinance regarding immigration.
Councilor Groves, I believe there's been communications with the city attorney's office, and I would defer to the city attorney, Catherine Brothers.
Might be nice to get an update at some point, because I mean, this is something that we need right now, but it's not going to happen right now, and it's probably, you know, best case scenario about 10 years out, and that's without having some of the challenges we're facing right now with the federal government. So it'd be kind of nice to know what is being done and if there are any avenues to that would be fruitful to pursue as we look at this. I mean, I agree with Councilor Evans. I think this is a really important priority for our intergovernmental relations work. But at the same time, I'd hate to see us spend a lot of time jumping at windmills, Don Quixote, if it's not going to produce anything.
I can pass that request on to Catherine.
That'd be nice. Do my colleagues have interest in that as well? Finding out how realistic this is and what is
Yes.
not just even a legal opinion, but looking at what's happening with other jurisdictions that are up against the same thing, with being limited on their federal dollars they're going to be able to get under the current circumstances.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that there's an interest in having an update on where we are with the federal grants and some of the contract language that the Trump administration has put on into different agencies.
Correct. That's what I'm dancing around.
Yep, and I'll pass that on to Catherine.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's
Keep going.
yes, keep going.
So then number 5, support increased state investment in behavioral health systems. And so this one was from last year as well. And I put in here as a placeholder and to consult with Lane County regarding potential behavioral health funding priorities. And so the thought there is that I know, hearing from the county that they have received a reduction in community corrections, that they are concerned about having full funding for the deflection program. And then also if there are any reductions from federal in this biennium from federal sources that then the state has to reduce money for behavioral health, mental health, drug addiction, and recovery, then those dollars, as you understand from the work session and ongoing conversations related to unhoused and community well-being and health, if the county's not receiving the adequate funds, then it ends up having a direct impact on the city organization and the community. So the interest here was to maintain that one as a priority and work with our partners at Lane County to support their efforts to receive robust funding for those services that benefit our community members.
Great. Questions?
Agree with that.
Councilor Evans?
I'd say I totally agree with that. We can't backtrack on behavioral health.
Right.
And we have no idea what the feds are going to do.
It seems like it's changing daily, if not hourly.
Every day.
Mayor Knudsen?
I'll just offer one note on that related to that point and follow up that the indications from our Health and Human Services colleagues at Lane County through the Poverty and Homelessness Board would indicate that us continuing to advocate collectively and strongly for support for this system is going to be incredibly important. It's not the trajectory of federal investments.
Thank you for sharing that. Last item?
Great, and so this one was also, was it out there? I can't remember if it was on last year, but support statewide property tax reform. And so out of last session, one of the priority 1 bills that we advocated in support of was House Bill 2321, and it established a task force on impacts on ballot measures 5 and 50. Local Representative Nathanson is going to lead that effort, and it's going to make recommendations for the 2027 legislative session to address the structural deficits local governments face due to property tax restrictions. And so that's less of having something at the state level, but it's just keeping this as a marker that that work group will be happening and that we want to show that that is a priority for the city of Eugene. Staff will be allocated to that, and we would continue to robustly engage in the work group, either as members and or as following and providing updates.
Okay. That seems pretty straightforward. Questions? Not seeing any.
Okay.
Let's revisit prioritization, no prioritization. Seems like there's several different ideas about that. I personally kind of like removing the numbers and making them bullets and then being able to move them up depending on opportunities and changing conditions over this next period. But I would appreciate hearing more from our colleagues. Councilor Ye.
Yeah, I like Ethan's idea of bullets too. I think that would work. And I mean, I'm not against the numbers as long as we all are in agreement that Ethan knows that they're not necessarily in order. Either way is fine with me, but I would just rather not have a strict 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for that he needs to keep in mind. They're just all important, and he advocates where he can.
Councilor Evans, did you have any?
I agree with Councilor Ye. You know, I originally I was thinking more prioritization because, you know, with the increased uncertainty on the federal level as well as the state level, I'm really kind of zeroed in on the airport and on development on Clear Lake Road. So those in relation to the other priorities are more or less top of my list, but I'm willing to say let's bullet all of them because they're all important.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Mayor, did you have any final comments?
No, thank you, Chair.
I mean, I'm wondering, like, I think the ones that have been talked about have in common rising to the surface is that they bring us funds. So, you know, I'm willing to say like that a priority in this current budget situation is things that are bringing funds to our city. I think that's a priority. I think it's kind of implied in here. But I mean, I think that's what Greg is getting at is he wants to be able to do things in our community. And in order to do that, we need funds.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and especially some of the critical things that we need, you know, the federal partnership on that. I'm really afraid that we may either be compromised or we might lose significant resources to be able to expand the airport, put the third concourse in, fix the baggage claim, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Yeah.
Ethan, do you have, do we need a motion on this or are we good to go?
Yep.
You're good from,
Yeah, I'll revise and add bullets.
okay, great. Thank you.
Perfect
Should we
timing.
suspend where we are in the agenda order and move
Well,
on?
it was actually the going to be the 7th bullet.
Oh,
That is not on there, but
suspending where we are.
what up, Will? Perfect timing. And so Will Dowdy, Community Development Director, is here to talk about a 7th priority that is emerging that we would like to share with you. Before Will starts, I went through and I spent a little bit of time today looking at existing policies to see if there's guidance, and then also talking with the city attorney's office and staff there. And currently under the 2025 policies, City of Eugene state and federal legislative policies, under land use number 4, Eugene supports the removal of regulatory barriers to housing affordability, availability, and diversity, and to mixed use development without sacrificing local control. We believe that provides us existing policy guidance to advocate on the topic that and the bill that Will is going to chat with us about. And so there's existing guidance, but we're also wanting to put that in front of you all, not for necessarily a vote, but kind of getting one of these, like, where are you with this? And if we can get 3 thumbs up, then we're gonna feel comfortable to keep working on it and doing concurrent lobbying. And I can get into what that process looks like after Will's.
Thank you, Ethan, and welcome, Will. And why don't you take it away on lucky number 7?
Thank you. Will Dowdy, Community Development Director, as Ethan said. With the caveats that Ethan mentioned, this is something that we're working on, interested in exploring further, but we think there's an opportunity for us to advance some of the city's housing goals by looking at expansion of what would in effect be expansion of tax exemption programs locally, but this would be state legislation that would enable that for us to consider. So you're familiar from the work the planning has done that we have a need to provide a large number of units over the next 20 years in the Oregon Housing Needs Assessment. 7,000 of those, 7,000 plus of those are moderate income, anywhere from 60 to 120% AMI, according to the numbers that we've received. And we currently have a few tools to meet that, few tools to target creation of that of housing at that price point. The state has a couple of options for cities in their tax exemption statutes, particularly, and this is where our ability to do the MUPTI program comes from. It comes from this state legislation that enables tax exemptions. Right now, so our program is kind of one program nested within the legislation. What the legislation, it really is focused around transit-oriented development. And that is why we have this program downtown. That's why the MUPTI program exists downtown. And so it says the city has the ability to create exemptions when they are close to transit. It also then says the cities have the ability to create programs that create exemption for low-income housing citywide. But then it specifies when the developer has an agreement with the state. It also, the language implies that it's intended towards to be for existing uses and not for new development. We think there's an opportunity there for a couple of what I would call surgical tweaks to the state code to be to open this up and create the opportunities for cities to implement a moderate income exemption program that would, by being clear that this was something that could apply, or by following under the path where it says citywide, cities can enter into these agreements, by being clear that this also covers new housing, new development, by being clear that this is that cities are. This looks like it would be the change, but that cities could enter the agreement, that the developers could have an agreement with the city and not just with the state, which would allow us to move forward projects under our own approval process, and then to emphasize that moderate income is explicitly covered by this. So we think all of these would be fairly consistent with what's in the state statutes, but would be a very clear path, a very clear yes to cities that we can move forward with a program like this. If the state were able to do this, then that would empower a city council conversation around a tax exemption program that could create opportunities for 10-year tax exemptions similar in effect to our MUPTI, but also also in between where we are with MUPTI and LRPTI. And so that a developer could pursue a development and make it income qualified for moderate income housing, and then receive a 10-year tax exemption. So there's a couple of different pieces here. Obviously, City Council has not expressed an interest in this program explicitly. You've talked about tools. So we're looking at both kind of what could happen at the state to enable something, and then what could City Council choose to do. and recognizing that you're in a role to guide what we talk about at the state, but then also you would then it would be the city council that would actually take action on something. So I don't want to us make an assumption about what you would actually like to implement in as city policy, but we see this as an opportunity for you to open a door. We are on October 28th planning. The planning team is going to be presenting at Planning Commission and talking about a series of tools connected to the urban growth strategies process that they're doing, and they are going to include this as one of the tools that they are considering. One of the tools they're exploring for consideration as part of a packet that would then come to you in November 12th as part of the presentation that you're going to get from planning. And so that's how we will be formally moving this through the city council process to say, is this the kind of thing that you meant when you said you want to see more tools, and was it the kind of thing that would help us to meet that state requirement to provide tools for moderate income housing? So that's how we're going to move that side of it, and I think it's in a way that will feel like their appropriate path forward. This is something that, but it's right now, it's not enough for city council to say, yes, we like that. If that's the way it is, it would also require some action at the state. So I think I've presented kind of all sides of that. Let me know what questions you may have.
Thank you, Will. Before we get to questions, Ethan, you said you wanted to kind of wrap this up with?
So I think that what Will is talking about is the programmatic and the elements that are going to be at the local level, and then after your conversation, I can then share what's happening at the state level.
Perfect. Then questions of the committee, and I see Councilor Ye has her hand up. Councilor Ye.
Yeah, so Will, I'm sure this is in our packet. I didn't get to review the stuff before either. So is essentially this is just expanding MUPTI across the rest of the city? Am I understanding that right, or am I missing something?
I think it could be characterized as that. I wouldn't characterize it like that. I would say that this is it's using the same state legislation as MUPTI, but it's actually a program that would be much more similar in our thinking of it to LRPTI. So right now, council has a very strong kind of track record of approving 20-year tax exemptions under LRPTI for all affordable housing projects. I can't think of any that you have ever denied. And so there's a very strong, it's a strong statement by council that says, if you're going to bring us a project that's 60% AMI, we will give you a 20-year tax exemption, and the track record is we will renew it. But there's nothing for projects where it's 61%, 65%, 85%, 90, and I don't know where that upper limit is, but basically if you're in moderate income, but you're still operating as an income qualified project, we don't have any tools to support new development there. And so this would be a way so what I see at the local level would be the possibility of council creating a tool that would provide a 10-year one-time exemption for new development that targets moderate income. So it's less community benefit, less community need than low income housing, but it's also less exemption, less incentive to make that happen, if that makes sense.
And you said that the units would have to be income qualified as well. That's one of the requirements.
We would be trying to focus on moderate income. The two ways that we've done that is either by income qualifying the rents or income qualifying I guess it's income qualifying the tenants themselves, or making sure that the rents are at appropriate levels. That would be a decision that we would bring to you ultimately about which path. One's a lot easier to do than the other. Either way, the result in either of those is that there's new units coming on the market that have rents meeting the community need.
I'm sorry if I missed it, but what is the legislative action we need? Because this sounds like it would be under current legislation.
So the code that currently exists is it gets very close to allowing this, but it doesn't quite. And there's those that's where those three things come into play. It looks like it favors existing, not new construction. It looks like it is that you need to have an agreement with the state around your income qualification, and the local level can't make that agreement. And what did I say the third one was? The third one was it says low income. Now I think that there's an interpretation of all three of those that could, depending on intent, there's probably an argument that this program could be covered by the state, but we would feel more comfortable going forward with this to clarify all three of those through amendments to the existing code or the existing statute.
And in your packet and what I sent on out is the document that's revisions to ORS 307.
Oh,
And so this is
okay.
How we would put forward as the legislative concept is basically, this would be the language.
This answers my question right there. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Will. Mayor, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. Will, I think your last explanation just covered most of this, but I think that framing around that there are ways in which the 10-year one time does feel connected to our MUPTI program in terms of what the incentive is, but that the target for this effort is our workforce housing, where certainly we have a lot of desire to see much more supply come into that moderate and working typical income level in our community. And that being qualified does make it a little bit more like a LRPT, but it's lots of letters attached to something that's a slight variation on the two, but does feel very consistent with all of the conversations council has had around wanting to increase access to workforce housing in our community and to be supportive of that critical component of economic development.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this something that's going to come before council as a work session or?
So council is going to have a work session. That's the November 12th. Planning will come. So planning is working on the larger project of urban growth strategy. So state mandated work to say how will the city respond to the stated need of 26,000 or whatever that number is, a large number of units over the next 20 years is the existing need and the future need. So so planning is going to bring you some strategies that have been developed and that are under exploration for you to consider as part of that. And so so currently the package that planning is working on and will bring to you includes a moderate income exemption.
Okay, great, thank you. And actually one more question. This is kind of a sidebar thing, but is there any work being done on the state building code around SROs?
There's been some work at the state. We're working locally on some of the work that we've been doing locally on what we've been calling micro village housing, and this is actually going to come to you in November as well. Okay, we don't think we need any state changes in the building code in order to take forward the model that every one village is looking at and Square One Villages have been talking about. So so I know the state is making some tweaks and trying to do some things around SROs as a little bit more conventional type, but locally some of the innovation that's coming out of the community, we think we've got pathways within existing code, and it would just be local land use code that we would need to adjust.
That's encouraging. Thank you very much. And for anybody listening in, SROs are single room occupancy. It's not medium income housing. This is the lowest of the low income housing, but it gives people, a chance to move and start getting on the housing ladder. And so I think that this is a real viable opportunity, especially with the small villages, as you mentioned, like every one village. Thank you.
There is interest in developing projects that I think could be opportunities for us to take this forward. And so I know that, for example, Dev Northwest is working on moderate income housing. I have not met with them yet to figure out whether this would be something that if the city was to go forward with a moderate income exemption, I don't know that it would exactly meet all of their needs, but I think but it's I guess this is an example to say there are developers who are working in the community who are trying to figure out how to make moderate income housing pencil, and so I have high hopes that something like this wouldn't just be an empty program, but would actually be something that would be easily adapted and people could take this forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I'll springboard off of that then to switch to the legislative piece. And so as you know, the legislative short session will start in February. As I said earlier today, legislators are limited to the number of bills they have, and many of them are already oversubscribed with requests for bills. And so those they hold in a priority position. So when we had this conversation yesterday, we being myself with the planning and community development with all of PDD to talk about their legislative priorities, and this item came on up, and we may be able to find a legislative vehicle in the champion to move this forward in the short session. Heavy emphasis on the May. And the reason why we are putting it as a priority is because I think, as Will said, there potentially could be projects that would benefit. And if we were able to get it across the finish line of a state statute changed in, let's say, by the end of the short session in March, and it would become either there's an emergency clause on it that would make it become active within 30, 60 days, or it would become active in July 1 of 2026. All of a sudden, it provides council more opportunities to have tools at your disposal earlier on for projects that might be in the queue. And so that may find a legislative vehicle and a pathway during the short session could also then turn on into, we can take it on in the long session in 2027, which is roughly 14 months away. So it's just, we were trying to be flexible and respond to an opportunity. There's council direction currently that gives us some latitude to move in that direction, to continue to do due diligence. As Will said, the full council will be deliberating on these items. The Planning Commission will be in the next couple of months. And so the way that we're kind of looking at this is that we could operate this with concurrent processes, working through IGR, with council, and then also seeking a legislative sponsor with the recognition that we're advocating with clear direction from council that says, yes, the policy is existing. So we're not getting outside what council's already directed us to do.
Great.
And so what we're looking for is just, if they're, answer any questions, get some comfortability, and then there doesn't need to be a vote, but just either a thumbs up or, yeah, no, don't do that. Don't advocate for it, wait. We want to get a sense of where the IGR committee is so that we are following through on that direction.
Colleagues?
I mean, I don't see a huge, there's nothing I'm like, ooh, that sounds like a total red flag. I think that, the details will be important, but if you're asking do I think we should explore this and keep spending staff time on it, then I would say yes. Is that what you're looking for?
Councilor Evans?
I agree with Councilor Ye.
And Mayor, did you have any input?
I just agree.
I agree as well.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
I agree with Councilor Ye. I think that the devil's going to be in the details.
Have that one. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I guess we're back to 3B.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Will.
Okay, 3G. Okay, as many of you know, there's the 2026, or there's the draft state federal policy document. That was what I was referring to previously under bullet number 7 in terms of the guidance. That document hasn't been updated and gone through to get rid of old things that we've already passed or to revise things with new information. Kind of like there's some changes within the cybersecurity AI pieces that we might want to put forward as changes. The unhoused section is just really messy in regards to it doesn't necessarily, it jumps around a lot, and so there's kind of taking time to revise that. And so the current document that's got a bunch of revisions, because staff that I've sent it on out over the course of the past few months to get input on like what's current, what do we need to change. So staff's given me a whole bunch of input, and the document's just really messy and hard to get through. So what I'm in the process of doing is I will come back and I think remember when we worked on the IGR operating agreements. I came back and I said, here's a color-coded list of changes, you know, green, yellow, and maybe red, right? Green is, this is existing council policy and existing direction, and we're just kind of streamlining it. Yellow is, oh, this is a slight change. You've talked about it, you've given thumbs on up, and then red was, oh, this is actually something pretty substantial and new. And so that's my process, and I'll bring that back in November. And I'll send it out for you for review, but in our November meeting, we'll probably spend more time walking through each of those individually in that color-coded, really easy to digest manner, so that then you can say, okay, yeah, that looks good, or no, we don't like that, or oh, we really like that one, or can we revise it? And that gives me time to then work on that and come back in December to then say, okay, you gave me revisions, we've made those revisions, and looking to then December to adopt the policies and the priorities document so that then in January, we can be in front of full council.
Thank you, Ethan. I think that's good. I think it needs to be done. My question is, it sounds like this is going to be a little bigger work item, so it might be nice for our November meeting, unless you think otherwise, to maybe have a lighter agenda so we have more time to focus on this.
Can do.
Does that make sense to committee? Yeah. Thank you for that. Item 3C.
Just 1 second. Right, no. Okay. 3C. So this is referring to the memo that I sent to you titled IGR Operating Agreements and Administrative Update Project Proposal. And so basically 3 things: a project needs statement, project process, and project outcomes. And I'm just going to read it because I think it's pretty clear. Currently, there are inconsistencies between the 2 adopted IGR policy documents, Resolution 4908 and Resolution 5387, the City Council Committee on Intergovernmental Relations Operating Agreements. Additionally, there are opportunities to enhance operational efficiency for the intergovernmental relations process by providing testimony, requesting funding, or providing letters of support. And an example of that we will get to later on in the agenda. Project process: the IGR manager, working with support from the city recorder and assistant city attorney, will outline the incongruencies between Resolution 4908 and 5387. Additionally, the IGR manager will identify process improvements to increase organizational efficiency and efficacy and bring these to the IGR committee for discussion and direction. This work will occur during the period of October 2025, now we're kind of laying it on out, into April 2026. With the recognition that January through March 2026 will be focused on the 2026 Oregon legislative session duties. Project outcomes. Upon completion of this project, the IGR committee will have reviewed, commented, and adopted a draft resolution to replace Resolution 4908 and also potential revisions to the IGR operating agreements found in Resolution 5387. These final draft proposals will be brought to the full city council in late spring, early summer of 2026 for review, deliberation, and action. So here you go. That's what the project is, and I've had a chance to discuss it with Councilor Groves in a chair IGR manager meeting. So,
colleagues, any comments, questions, concerns? I think it sounds pretty straightforward.
Great,
thank you. Okay, D.
Okay, so kind of gone over a little bit of this, but so we're in October. We laid out and Counselor Groves and I, as IGR chair, we met earlier in September and talked through some of all of the things that you're seeing today, and also what a schedule would look like for up through the spring. And so what trying to do is just really map on out the work of the committee in advance, so you have a better sense than maybe what we've done in the past. And so October, this meeting, we've laid out what we're working on and the priorities. November, we'll come back and we'll have the draft priorities for you to potentially adopt or give review to say, oh, we want to make some changes, but that one should be pretty close to being tight. The policy document will come back, and as we've heard in November, we'll have a focus meeting on that, on walking through and reviewing what the policy changes are and providing input on those, so that then that document will get revised, and by December, come back and the IGR committee can then work to review and potentially take action, ideally adopt. Throughout this process, I'll also be giving updates on the operating agreements, the administrative update project, and likely be able to put in front of you things to say, okay, we're looking at it, and one of the incongruencies is X related to providing testimony. Here's what it says in the documents. Here's what we do realistically from a process standpoint, from efficiencies. We'd like to change it to this. How does that feel? So that you can say, yeah, we like it, or no, that doesn't feel right, go in this direction. So it's really, we want to be, with that part, be a little bit more iterative and engaging with you all to be able to give direction, understand the issues, and then give direction, say, yeah, this is what we want. And speaking on behalf of committee, but also recognizing that you're kind of speaking for your colleagues on council. All of that will ultimately come back to council. And so that then by December, we will have had the priorities document approved, the policies document approved. We will give that to council, so that then right now we're looking at a mid-January work session for council to review, comment, and take action on those priorities and those policies prior to the start of the legislative session, which would be February. And so we're hoping that we can get in there. The council's calendar in January is going to be really hard to get into because of city manager recruitment and a number of other items. But Brooke let me know that we're on for roughly like January 17th. So then we're going to start the legislative session in February. We'll still be meeting. We may meet February and then early March, or we also might want to say, let's meet February, mid-February, early March, because who knows what's happening related to things moving, and if you're wanting to have more conversation and discussion on topics. Then we move on into March. We're wrapping up the legislative session. There's spring break at the end. Council goes on break, and then you come back in April. So we may decide to take April off, not have an IGR committee meeting because you will all be on break. So we can navigate that as we get closer to it. And then by May and June, we'll be looking at finalizing and taking action on the project change, the administrative update project. So that's kind of what the schedule looks like over the course of the next 6 months. 6 months.
Thank you, Ethan. Colleagues, comments, questions? Sounds pretty straightforward. What's that?
I'm good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't we, before we get to items for committee members and go to the order, why don't we review the letter for Whitebird, in support of Whitebird?
Perfect. And so this is an example of where what is in the resolution in terms of process is not, there's exceptions in the resolution. But if we were to follow the resolution on providing testimony and letters of support, we would be bringing back to you on a consistent basis, monthly, if not weekly, the letters of support that get requested from the community for the city to take a position on. And so one of the things that, and we wanted to do this process right now, so you get a sense of, okay, what are we saying yes to and how big of an issue is it? And so before you, what we've sent, and this is a draft that we've put on, that I took the liberty of putting under Mayor Knutsen's letterhead, because as the chief elected official, that carries a great deal of weight externally. And yet it's also that we want to ensure that there is city council alignment and direction related to what the testimony or the statement's going to be. And so what we've spent time on is looking to say, this grant letter of support is for Whitebird to receive federal funds from the U.S. Health Resources and Service Administration's Health Center Program Service Area Competition Grant. They have received those funds since 2001, and they fund outreach to individuals experiencing houselessness related to primary medical care, preventative and emergency dental care, mental health services, and substance use services. And they do that in a coordinated fashion with Lane County and with an example of a recent project was working with St. Vincent de Paul to go on out and have a mobile van providing those services one time per week. And so there's the content of the letter of support is aligned with City Council adopted policy. We've had a long-term relationship with Whitebird Clinic related to Cahoots and the services that provide support for community members. In addition to, we also have a process that's outlined in the resolution that we should be bringing these to the IGR committee as the Government Relations Committee for review and approval. So that's what we have in front of you today. If you approve it, I will route it for Mayor Knutsen's signature, and then it will be moving along its way.
Colleagues, but first, since Mayor Knutsen's signature would be on it, how do you feel about it?
I always appreciate working with staff to develop our letters of support for organizations and work happening in this community, and we do try to be present in that supporting role in any way possible. So I'm certainly comfortable with this letter, and have been comfortable speaking and amplifying the values and the actions of council at other times as well.
Thank you, Mayor. And Councilor Evans, I saw your hand flash across the screen.
Right. I've got I think a broader question is, are we comfortable right now with the administration of Whitebird, given the number of fiscal and other issues that they have? I don't have a particular problem with supporting a letter going out in support of them, except that I'm having some real heartburn over the stability of Whitebird and their ability to deliver on what they say they can deliver on.
You know, I actually think Councilor Evans is raising a really good point. I mean, I don't have a problem with this, but I'm concerned with some of that as well. I mean, going back to some of the issues we have with Cahoots. But Ethan, do you have any comments about that?
None whatsoever. I'm here to put the letter of support in front of you.
Okay. Councilor Ye, did you have anything?
Yeah, so I mean, if we can get money for our local organizations, we know they all need it. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that the letter implies that we are in a current partnership with Cahoots though, and I don't know that that's accurate. So, it says continued until 2023. Okay, never mind. I was reading too quickly. Okay. All right. Well then, yeah. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I understand that they might be having some troubles, but like, I'm not in a position to have a full view of what is going on inside their organization. So I don't think and I don't for most nonprofits in this community. So unless I had like accurate, reliable information that would make me concerned about it, I don't feel like I'm in that space to make that determination, I guess.
I
Yeah.
certainly understand what you're saying, Counselor Ye. I think it's just more of a question.
Yeah, no, it's worth
Yeah.
it's worth
I don't think that
tossing out
this
there.
letter, I don't think there's anything problematic with this letter, but I do think that that's a question we should ask, depending what level of support they want, especially if it's city support.
Yeah, I guess my point was if someone has information, like, then that is something we should talk about for sure. Like, because we know they are struggling. It's not, that's
Yeah.
true.
Thank you. So Ethan, what are you looking for? Do
A
we need
vote.
a vote?
Yep.
Okay, do we have a motion to support this, approve this? Counselor Evans?
Yeah. Yes. I'll make a motion to support the letter.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion has been made and we have a second. All in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
I,
It's unanimous.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that I think that this is relatively harmless, but I just caution that, you know, the perception of partnership, um, I think, yeah, as we move forward down the line, particularly with other nonprofits that are going to be asking for similar letters of support and support from the council, that, you know, we are aware of the relationship that we have currently, past relationships, and if we're going to continue future relationships with nonprofits and know whether they can deliver on what they're doing or not.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. I will be more concerned if they're specifically asking the city of Eugene for money, especially in these tight times. Oh, Mary, you have your hand up again.
Thank you, Chair. I had just put it up a few moments, seconds before that, so you did not leave me. I was going to offer a similar comment that, you know, that grant applications and competitive applications, which letters of support are a part of, always include a comprehensive budget proposal and typically also include background on financial information that's required as a part of that competitive process. So with regards to a letter of support, this really speaks to how, you know, we as a city are comfortable supporting our nonprofit partners in this case in their pursuit of particular funding to deliver particular services. Or to meet a particular programmatic need in our community. So I think it certainly is a different conversation in terms of review than if this was a direct ask to the city of Eugene for funding, but also just wanted to observe to others that a letter of support is a part of, and not to the committee, but to anyone else who's listening to this conversation and watching, that a letter of support is a part of a larger package of information. And there would certainly be applications would need to have a complete application in order to be reviewed, which always includes a budget when requesting funding.
Mayor, I appreciate your comments there, and I appreciate the additional context you put around delineating between the two. That's kind of how I see it too. So you have what you need, Ethan?
I do. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Items for committee members and good of the order. Anybody have anything? Seeing none, Ethan, did you have any final words?
Nope, we're good.
All right. You want the blindfold?
Well,
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
all right, take it easy.